to Behavior on Demand, presented by Callie Wakefield, Board Certified Behavior Analyst and Behavior Specialist in Tomball ISD. Welcome back to another episode of Behavior on Demand. Today we are going to be discussing first-then boards and reinforcement. Let's go. Last week we talked about schedules. A first-then board is a very simple schedule. For example, we would write what the task is first that the student or the child needs to complete. So in this case, first math, then they get to go outside. First reading, then they get access to M&Ms. This first-then board is simply a piece of paper and I used a marker to write on it. I also have another first-then board that's made of cardstock and laminated so that I can use it more than one time. Your child will not care what your first-then board looks like as long as it is provided in a visual format for them to be able to follow. First-then boards are very important in that they show what the student needs to do first to have access to what they want. And this will lead us straight into our discussion on reinforcement. Now let's discuss positive reinforcement. The definition of positive reinforcement is: it occurs when a behavior is followed immediately by the presentation of a stimulus that increases the future frequency of the behavior in similar conditions. So let's talk about what that means in everyday life. So a child is asked to sit down in a chair. The child sits in the chair, and then the parent provides praise. The request is that the child is asked to sit down in a chair. The behavior is when the child sits. And the praise is the positive reinforcement in this situation. We're going to talk about what a positive reinforcer is. This is a stimulus whose presentation or onset functions as reinforcement. So not all reinforcers are created equally. For example, if you present me with a chocolate chip cookie and chips, I would do way more for the cookie. I like chips and cookies, but a cookie is a stronger reinforcer for me. Also, not all things are a reinforcer for every child. For example, if you give me a cup of coffee, I will not do anything to earn that cup of coffee because I do not like coffee. But if you were to present me with a large unsweet tea with lemon, I would do anything to earn it. This directly relates to students who may prefer a Skittle over an M&M or vice versa. Some students don't like chocolate, so chocolate wouldn't be a positive reinforcer for that child. Reinforcement is not bribery. So now we're going to talk about the difference between reinforcement and bribery. Reinforcement occurs after the desired behavior occurs. So for example, a child is crying in the grocery store. A parent says, "I need you to have a quiet mouth and quiet body." The child stops crying and is calm. Then the parent gives the child a candy bar. This is an example of reinforcement because the candy bar was presented after the desired behavior of stopping or having a quiet body and a quiet mouth occurs. Bribery occurs before the desired behavior as a way to convince the child or person to comply with what you would like them to do. So here's an example of bribery. A child is crying in the grocery store. The parent gives them a candy bar and says, "Now stop crying," and the child stops crying. In which scenario would the child likely to behave in the store the next time? If you answered reinforcement, you are correct. Now that we've learned a little bit about first-then boards and reinforcement, if you have further questions, please feel free to reach out to your child's teacher. I will see you next time on Behavior on Demand.